three going that way and three going that way, so that
Call the meeting to order. This is a workshop. Do we have to do a pledge? Do all that? Okay, very good. We're talking here about employing the attorney as an employee of the town. Aaron, do you want to give us a little background on that, please?
Sure, so, with Clay's new job, he cannot contract out. He has to be an employee. And so for us to continue, having him as our attorney, he'll need to be an employee of the town with a salary, not benefits, but the usual federal and state taxes taken out. With other towns, I think he's just have them average what they've paid him hourly to come up with the salary, and I printed a QuickBooks report on the bottom of your stack of paper. So for 2024, we spent $13,712 on his services, and then in 2023, 13,456. So little over 13 grand. So that, I mean, you guys will have an executive session at some point to negotiate this with him. So today is just kind of starting
Right.
what you're thinking about. So that's kind of where we're at. Clay had emailed just kind of this general employment agreement as a starting point.
Is he on the web? Is he zoomed in? I wonder. I guess not.
No, Clay, are you here?
No.
No, we could tell if he was. Yeah. Oh, he's there. Okay, well, we talked about this at the meeting with him last time about his availability to us. And, you want to address that? You didn't have a meeting, give me a chance to.
I think it was you who brought it up at the meeting of putting a paragraph or a clause in of
Right.
the time frame of him responding to Melanie and I, or, all of us. Because there have been times he's been unresponsive.
Right.
And, certain things, like when we get open records requests, we have 72 hours to comply.
Right.
And if I need help
Right.
and he doesn't get back to us, Melanie had an issue. We had one court case in here earlier, or late last year, and she needed help and he was unresponsive. So, I think that would be important to put in here if you want, to negotiate the contract. I know there's times he's not available because he does the Army Reserve training or certain times of the year.
It's usually 1 weekend a month and two
Yeah,
weeks a year.
yeah, so,
I had asked him whether he thought his district attorney duties would increase with time, right?
right,
That's kind of why I brought it up. And then I think he said it's not really worth it. And if it got to be overwhelming, it could be.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So
that's a big job. That's,
Where's the district attorney?
whatever county that is out
Is
there.
that Archuleta?
Pagosa.
Pagosa Springs.
so,
I've got a question. If he becomes an employee, how does that affect us if we were to run into legal problems? And we were to be sued, him being an employee, would he be sued along with the board? Because he's representing us as an employee of the town.
I don't know. That's something that
Sursa's
jot down to ask him.
Sursa would be the one that if we had a lawsuit, they would be the ones that would be paying it out, so.
Right,
That sort of throws a little gray area to me, so.
right,
I would think that, regardless, he's gonna be representing us, whether as a contractor or as an employee. So when somebody's coming after us, they would still need, and him, because he's the one that's basically, unless we totally disregard what he recommends to us, that he's still.
But him being an employee, he could be sued he could be part of the suit. Whereas if he was the
Contract.
way we have him now, he wouldn't be involved in the lawsuit probably. He wouldn't be one of the parties that was being sued.
Good point.
I don't know how that works. I mean,
I have no idea. Just-
like when they,
Well, but other towns have attorneys on their staff and they get sued.
Mhm.
And so I don't know whether they're involved in the suit or not. Their job is to represent the town unless it's beyond their scope of capability. So I don't think that, I'm not sure that's an issue. Now Bob brought it up, whether he represents us under contract or as an employee. I think that, the court would look right through that and say you're involved somehow.
There was a problem with that, we might have seen something like that in the news with anything other than a township, if it's a city, their attorneys are part of their payroll generally. So I don't think, like that, I don't think it would be a problem. He's still gonna maintain the status as an officer,
Right.
right? Just like,
Right.
like Aaron and the mayor and us, I guess. But, so I don't think there's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Just my
Good.
sea lawyer opinion.
actually, you're right, like,
That's-
it says he's an officer and it doesn't say whether he's an employee or otherwise. So I think it's the same deal in that respect. He's an officer of the town, one way or the other.
Well,
And he represents what, 4 other little towns? Or 5 altogether?
That's right.
um,
And he's got his job as assistant DA, obviously applied for that job. Or the contract, whatever, he wanted the job.
but he's been doing it since last summer,
It's been, yeah.
about a
I
year.
don't know how much money, if he charges, he's making about $100,000 a year, well, less than that. If it's 18,000 times 5, that'd be 90,000 a year from the 5 towns. We paid him 17 and change.
13.
We paid him,
13,
13, I thought it was. What is this? 13, I apologize.
Probably round up to 14, right?
We rounded up to 18. So he's making about $70,000 off these 5 gigs. And, I don't know if he has office staff, I don't believe he does. Because every time I call over there, I get a voicemail or him.
he may have an assistant. I don't think he has an actual paralegal.
Okay, so and I don't know if he has any outside practice at all. Other than individuals, in town.
I think it's just the municipalities and now this new job.
Aaron, from the financial stuff, or from your knowledge of his contract, what is his hourly rate?
165.
Yeah,
What he told us the
That's what
other
he
day.
told us last meeting.
yeah, it's 165. Which isn't bad. I mean,
Today's, yeah.
It's gonna be months. Salary may not be justified. There's gonna be months that he probably works more than,
So he worked about 84 hours last year, 85 hours. 7 hours a month. That's not a lot.
no,
No,
it just, it depends on what we have going on.
Yeah.
We were doing weekly phone calls with him and that kind of died down at some point. I don't remember why. Him and Caleb talked a lot just with the zoning ordinances.
I talked to Clay about him, Caleb, and, about this whole town manager deal.
Mhm.
He says, yes, I talked to him a lot about, they called a lot, I did not bill you for them. I felt it was Caleb's personal deal. And, I called him last year about, so, anyway. I think, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't, wish we had one around, but, I don't know, the legal advice he's given us, I think has been, as far as I'm concerned, good. but I can't, how can I judge?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
And,
Has he ever had to write a letter on behalf of the town to quell somebody who's crying about maybe doing a lawsuit or something like that?
Not in the year I've been here.
Because I would anticipate, just my personal opinion, Mr. Hedberg is, or somebody will, excuse my French, I shouldn't have said Mr. Hedberg. Somebody might be looking to try to nail somebody on the sunshine law violations. Because I had a discussion about that, and it seemed to be something that was very attractive to an individual. Because they've seen other people get away with it in Pueblo and Orfano County, so I was just concerned about that.
Well, it is an interesting aspect, isn't it? Because under the old contract deal, he could charge whatever hours it took. Now, if it became a prolonged legal schmiegel thing, he's gonna eat it, isn't he?
Yeah,
Depends on the contract, depends on how we do it.
if we write it at a strict, okay, we're gonna give you $14,000 a year, that's it, and you cover everything that comes up. That would definitely benefit us if something major came up.
right,
And I think that he's a smart enough cookie that he would realize that, and he probably wouldn't agree to it. So it might be a salary rate, but if the hours would go to a certain level, like instead of, what did we say, about 75 hours a year? If it went over 100 hours a year, then he would have the right to renegotiate or something like that.
How's that gonna affect your payroll?
Well, he said in here he wants bi-weekly payments, but we pay once a month.
That's-
So that needs to be negotiated, because our whole QuickBooks is set up with the state and federal taxes taken
No,
out once a
I
month.
meant if you were paying by the hour, then it would be affecting your payroll every time you wrote him a check. So it'd be a straight salary then, correct?
Right, we
So that every
take-
month it's the same thing.
Right,
All the
take,
withholdings and everything else, because you are gonna have to do withholdings on him,
correct, yeah.
so.
So,
Um,
you know, that paragraph needs to be monthly.
Sure.
bi-weekly.
Well, he.
This,
He did break that.
this, Bob,
I'll interject. You know, we have budgeted for 20,000. We reduced it from 24
Mhm.
from last 2 years evidently. And so it's budgeted for 20,000. Okay, the basically last 2 years, $1,100 a month average. Okay, so I propose that we say, go ahead and do it as an employee, you know, say 1150, that'll give him a little bit of a bump. And then we have to negotiate, you know, an hourly rate, which he says right now, he's billing at 165.
well, you
So-
wouldn't be
so-
building us anymore.
Huh?
You wouldn't be building us anymore.
I know that, but however, if we were to be into a lawsuit or something where it takes a lot of extra time, that's something that I would think that he would want to have that, you know, situated. And maybe he says, okay, I'll do the, whatever we negotiate, the $1,100, whatever it is, I'll give you 10 hours a month or something like that. Okay. And then also too, I'm hearing loud and clearly that Aaron's situation is we make it very clear that that's part of your job description as an employee, that, you know, we have a timely response and within whatever time, like 24 hours or something like that. So that way we're not holding their staff out. Okay, and also along those lines, because of what you shared with us, just now, that I don't think it's fair to him, okay, him being, you know, our attorney, is that, you know, he gets calls from, technically, all of us can be calling him. So he's sitting there all day talking to the town of Westcliff, you know, 5 different people. That's not fair to him. So in other words, I would think that it'd be wise for us to say, okay, have all the communications with our town attorney via the town clerk, in this case Aaron, okay, that, in other words, so, because Aaron's getting ready, she has a call into him. okay, and you, Mr. Mayor, would, you know, you need to talk to him, or the new town coordinator, operations, then that person needs to talk. So in other words, is that something, so I think that's a more clear, defined thing. And also too, when he is not available, you know, he assigns a backup in case of an emergency that we do need to talk to him. So if there's a 2-week period, he's out playing army, whatever they do, then the town issue needs it right now, say, for whatever reason. So I would say, you know, pretty much my old attorneys always had a backup in case they're.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, you have somebody you can call and talk to. Absolutely. That's a good point.
You know, yeah, and also too, I'll just let you know, when he's talked to us the other night, he named his towns, and one of them was Pitkin. I've done a lot of work in Pitkin, and I restored their town hall, and so I called they don't have a mayor right now. And they're original, they're four trustees and a mayor, and I talked to the mayor pro tem, because they don't have a mayor. And I know Tom Gibb is name, and I called him this morning, I said, Tom, what do you think? Is Clay Bookner is your attorney? Oh, yeah. I said, well, we're doing, he says, yeah, we just went through that, and he's done a great job for us. So, you know, they're like us, they're a small town, don't have a lot of stuff going on. So I did a real background check, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's done well for us, other than this communication issue. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, 3 cents.
He and
I
his,
got a,
go ahead, Randy.
I'm chairing this meeting.
Oh, okay, Mr. Mayor, who's next?
The town trustees are allowed to call our lawyer?
Yep.
Well, I
We're
thought,
officers.
to me, I think the town trustees should be running everything through the mayor. The mayor should be then running it through you to call, or you could call them instead of all of the trustees calling. I don't.
Well, that's why I say,
No, yeah.
it is, let's set this up so that we have a system.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
When we were dealing with the job descriptions, Mark and we had a call into Clay. Okay, you know, so nobody said we can't.
Yeah,
Exhibit A addresses that, actually.
excuse me?
Exhibit A, it does say at this point, act as legal advisor to the council for the mayor, board of trustee, commissions, town administrator, department head. So it's, from his view, it's wide open. The other thing I noticed in here is the second bullet, ensure acknowledgement of receipt of correspondence from town trustee or staff within 24 hours with confirmation of an estimated timeline of resolution. So that's pretty broadly put out, but at least it seems to imply he's got to get back to you within 24
Yeah.
hours.
Well,
Is
I
that good
think,
enough, you think?
I think Bob makes a good point, that if something happens when he's on military duty, that we have a backup. So
Anytime, right? Anytime's on vacation or whatever.
Right. So that's first thing we need to put into this.
Yeah.
The second thing is addressing this matter of 24 hours. Let's say somebody wants information, freedom of information, whatever it was you said that we had to get it. We had 72 hours.
Yeah,
Does that include weekends? If we get it on Friday, do we have to get them by?
it's
That's business
business.
days.
Business
Yeah.
days, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that could resolve itself just by the ordinance or whatever it is. So anyway, I would want to maybe restructure that a little, tighten it up a little bit more. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence from town trustees or staff within 24 hours with confirmation of an estimated timeline of resolution of the issues. So what do you think about that?
I mean,
That's-
I think 24 hours is fine. You know.
So he can text you back or whatever and say, got your message, let's talk or whatever, and
Yeah.
I'll get you, by that time I'll know what to do and how to do it and when
Yeah.
it's gonna be done.
Because I mean, open records request is 72 hours. You know, I give him a good week before I need to put a packet out for a board meeting.
Yeah,
You know, I try not to do things at the last minute. But, you know, if we had an emergency, if a lawsuit did come about, I mean,
that could be communicated to him, say, Clay.
We need help now,
help
yeah,
now, Yeah.
but,
Uh,
and if he is, you know, he emailed Melanie and I a list of dates in the summer. He's gonna be gone for military stuff or for family vacations, and there's quite a few, so.
Oh, so you do know
So
that.
having a backup, I think is
yes,
important.
we don't compensate him. Do we compensate him when he's on vacation?
He's an employee, so does whatever.
But he says he has no vacation time.
Right, cause here, like part-timers don't, if they get, I have to look, a certain amount of hours of PTO. I'll look at Dwight's sheet,
But
so,
he wouldn't get that.
Yeah, he gave that up.
right,
I do
and he
that.
gave up benefits, retirement, medical, so, yeah,
But as far as benefits, we will be taking over paying his FICA, 7.1 for
Right.
that,
That's-
which relieves him of paying the 7.1 as a self-employed person
right,
right now.
you
So,
wouldn't have to pay court.
so he's getting the 7.1% raise based on that, because now we're taking that over.
Right,
Just a point.
But it's costing us more money.
Yeah, and if we have any other benefits that he's, well, if he's not taking any medical, dental, any of those
He's not.
benefits, but if he does get days off, those still count against us physically, somehow, don't they?
right, I mean, if he's not available, but
Right.
getting paid a salary.
He'd still be paying some withholding tax.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Well, social security is different than FICA.
They'll have both state and fed
Right.
taxes taken out.
Because right now, if you're a contract employee, you're responsible for that entire FICA, which is almost 15%.
Right.
Right, and as an employee, you pay half of it.
Yeah.
And the employer pays half of it. Now we will be taking out, paying half of his for him, so that's a benefit.
Yeah, he does not, he says, here,
Yeah. Number 6.
the employee, yes, shall not receive PTO, holiday benefits, or any paid leave benefits.
Okay.
See, so how about with that, then, if he takes 2 weeks off, do we pay him half of the 1,100?
We don't pay, well, every time he takes off, we don't pay for it.
That's
So
right,
it's
so
2
in other
weeks.
words, that month,
Yeah,
it's half of what we said we're gonna pay per month.
you have to probably inform him of that.
You know,
Sure. He's probably gonna,
if he's going out on reserve duty, I don't know if we can restrict his salary while he's on reserve duty.
Yeah.
That's fine, we're not
I mean, Paul,
I don't know the question.
I think in terms of if he's taking time off, if he's a salaried person, then he still gets a salary. That's one of the aspects of salary, isn't it? He's not an hourly worker, paid by the hour.
No, he's a salaried worker. So when he's on military leave, I think we have to continue to
I
pay
think
him.
you're right.
Yeah,
I do too, because of
And I
the
wrote,
stuff with reserves and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to
That might be
say,
his first lawsuit.
if he's unavailable,
That gets their attorney.
if he's unavailable and provides a backup, then we're gonna have to pay the same rate for the backup, I guess I'm trying to say.
And in that case, then I would think you could safely reduce his his rate. If we had to pay a backup $350, Clay can't expect to be paid $350. We shouldn't have to double pay. See what I'm saying?
Well, maybe you need to say that he
Well-
takes care of paying the backup.
Well, let's discuss
Yeah.
that. We'll discuss that and see. The likelihood of that happening is pretty small, I would think. It's just all timing. So cross that bridge when we get to it.
a lot of times when he's on reserve, you can tell, you know, he's calling from a military base.
Yeah.
You see the beds back there that, you know, and he's got the, clean shave. I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
and he says he can answer, most of the time, answer emails and stuff in the evenings when he's doing the military.
So, the sense I get is that you guys want to continue with him.
Well, I think, let's ask Aaron. I mean, with,
Yeah. That's
even
your
though
call,
with
really.
the issues, if we address those, are you comfortable with
Yeah.
professionally,
Yeah.
talking? So that's the main thing. And you know what? I forgot to bring my thing, but the county's going through it right now and And I'll just, just for information,
Well, they hired someone, didn't they?
they have a town, I don't know what the deal is, why they're county attorney, but he last year averaged $3,300 or something like that, but county, we know, has got. But anyway, but there's some new lady that
Yeah.
moved here from Colorado Springs, and she wants $5,000 a month. Plus.
As many times they get sued.
Exactly.
That's in the move, they have to settle.
So anyway, so I think we already have somebody that deals with small towns. I don't think it's wise for us as trustees to, we already know, we already have a 2-year working relationship, 3-year, whatever it's been.
When we're talking about if he has to, he spends more hours than we're actually paying for, then, we could work something out like a bonus, put it in the contract, that if he goes over this certain hours or this certain salary that we got, then he can apply for a bonus, because bonus checks, we still take out all the social security and everything.
Right.
So we could go that way if he has a year where he's, spent $20,000.
Yeah, and there's gonna be months, however, when he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, there are several back there. Yep.
So,
And he
I
even
would
said
say that, I'm sorry?
He said that at the last meeting, there would be months,
Right.
that
Now,
it's better for him and then months it's.
Right.
Exactly.
Better.
so he can, so if he's on the payroll, just like Neil or anybody else, now Neil gets overtime. He won't be getting overtime.
He's a.
I wouldn't think so. A board meeting and so forth that he has to attend, that we want him to attend. Do we ask him to attend the board meetings, or does he just do that? How's that work?
We've asked him, he's supposed to be in all the meetings, but
Okay.
there's been times he has been out on the military stuff.
Just,
All right. So, how do you feel about this contract as written? This employment agreement?
I think, changing when he's paid. Let's
Right.
change that to monthly. I highlighted where the salary needs to be put in. But I guess just, talking about the backup situation, having something added. And then addressing, what happens if the town gets sued and he's working tons and tons of hours for us, what does that look like? Is there a certain amount of hours that he's gonna want more, if it goes over a certain point? So that's something you guys need to figure out with him.
Well, do you think we should bring it up or leave it to him? The implication is if he doesn't bring it up, then he eats it.
Right, when you guys do the executive, that's gonna be the negotiating,
Yeah.
I'll tie up a few things in here, but from what we talked about, but it's really gonna be what you guys do in the executive.
Interesting, he didn't mention it in this job description, though, did he?
What? The-
Going over some limit.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, I guess we need to be prepared for that eventuality. It's probably fairly probable he'll bring it up, like you say,
Sure.
Aaron. If he doesn't, I'll be surprised, but,
yeah,
but,
what he sent to us is what he sent to Silverton, because he didn't change it in a paragraph, and
it's
it's in
boilerplate.
Silverton, so, this is just a starting point for you guys.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
I'd like to also, I want to go back to this, thing where the board can call him. I think it should be the mayor or the staff.
That's
And,
exactly what I'm saying.
if you have to direct somebody to contact him, then you could direct that person to contact him. I just don't want a bunch of board members calling him all the time, and all of a sudden up shoots his hours and,
Right.
Exactly what I'm saying. And I think the situation, let's say if any one of us, it's our concern, and we sit on the phone conversation with Paul or with Aaron.
Yeah, we can do that.
Just do it that way when as needed, so, hey,
yeah.
but I think that's a good faith thing toward our town attorney is that, hey, you're not gonna be bombarded by
Yeah.
all these different people.
But I mean, you guys should be able to, if there's an emergency or like I'm out of town or Paul's in Europe for 7 weeks.
He never goes
And
out.
what?
You're in Europe for 7 weeks.
I mean, actually,
That's gonna happen again.
That's why we gotta
I'm gonna be in Africa for 7 years.
I need to call him
Right.
at the last meeting. He and
Yeah.
I need to come up with a little language to add to the gun.
Yeah, and I know George called him a few times, so I mean, you guys should be able be able to do it. if something
Yeah,
really comes up.
But I think Randy brings up a good point, that, the minimum, we should be notifying Aaron that we're doing this and what it is, at a minimum. Do I need to be involved in everything? I've talked to Clay a number of times on the phone over the years. Most was on this Caleb thing and in terms of what Caleb was trying to do about the town manager and so forth. And, because Caleb did call and he talked to him for a long time, over a number of times in the last year, in 24. Anyway, so back to Randy's point, I think if we're gonna call the attorney, we first, call me and talk to me, and I would certainly direct you to go to Aaron and maybe have a conference call with the two of you. I don't need to be involved unless you think I do. Like on this gun thing, I don't need to be involved in that. It's not.
I'll coordinate with you then.
So you could do that. But just calling him, I think, that chews up hours. We may not need to. Erin's an attorney. She may know how to cut right to the point on this, on whatever your question is.
You know, we could go back to doing an every other week or monthly call.
Yeah,
Cause we were doing that for a while with me and Caleb and Kathy, and it just kind of died down, but, you know, we could do it once a month or whatever with Melanie and I, and then
Right.
you know, any of you who had questions for the month could,
right.
you know, sit in on it.
Like a staff meeting type of thing.
Kind of, yeah. I mean,
Right, you
wouldn't
can
be able
do
to
that.
have more than 2 of you, but.
Well, even if he reports to you,
Right.
he will report to you.
Does that
I
suit?
think we're,
No, not to trustees.
yeah, he doesn't report to me.
No,
Well, I think he should report to you.
no, just,
He's an
He's
officer,
an officer.
yeah.
He's an officer.
no.
He's an
By-
officer of the
By
town.
statute, he's an officer, so
He
he
reports
reports
to
to
you.
you guys.
By statute, he's an officer because he's an attorney?
Yeah, it's in the law.
Is it really?
Yeah.
As
All right, well,
Trustees. town clerk, town attorney,
Town attorney.
that's it. Then everybody else falls underneath.
And that's in our flow chart
Right.
somewhere. in
Now,
our-
now, as
in our
far as
handbook, yeah,
the communication, like we were just talking about too, I don't think that needs to be put in here. I think that should be like a town policy type of thing. Where, like Paul said, if we could talk to him, we give Paul a call and then he points to you and then you contact them. That should be a policy, not
Yeah.
just in this contract, I don't think. Or does it need to be?
Which, in the contract?
Having
The chain of command.
the chain of command, basically, like what Paul suggested.
Communication.
If he has a question about something that might be legal, he contacts Paul, Paul contacts Aaron, and then Aaron talks to Clay.
Well, we do have that employee manual, something could be added to that, because it's on our side, and.
Yeah, this is all us, how we're handling.
Yeah.
Paul, excuse me. I think that's just a little cluttered. I think really
Just
everything should be through Aaron. Aaron says, you know, I don't feel comfortable. Let's talk to Paul about that.
Right.
And then, am I on the right?
that's fine.
That
Yeah.
makes sense in others, because she's basically an administrator, well, she is the administrator, so she knows all this stuff that we're gonna have, and she knows the boundaries and the limits we can do. And so, because again, You know, you got enough on your plate as well, and you know, you don't need to be, not to say it's menial, but, you know, some menial things that, well, you know, why take your time? It takes her time too,
Another
to
step.
communicate with you, only if necessary. That's my thinking.
Yeah, a lot of the questions we have as board members may not be legal matters.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it may be already a policy or ordinance on it, or it's just not a legal matter. That we would need his guidance on, but still, he is an employee. I don't know how many hours, let's see, if we pay him $14,000 a year. Divided by 160, that's 84 hours a year. That's what we're going to have, went through this arithmetic once, so it's 7 hours a week. What are you laughing at?
You said 14,000, we paid 11,000 last year.
No,
No, we
13,
paid 13 and change,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so Paul's just rounding.
Oh, 1,100,
Yeah.
I need another zero, sorry, Mr. Mayor, apologies.
So anyway, he works about 84 hours a year, 7 hours a month. So clearly, we don't put a lot of stress on him,
Mhm.
you know. But now with this other job he's got, with the city or the county, he's a DA, district attorney, they got a DA.
Assistant. Assistant, yeah.
So be a DA for Archuleta County assistant.
Yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
job.
So,
Oh,
I can see their need to have him on as an employee too, because they want to make sure his hours are available to them when they need it.
well, actually, 84 times 5 towns is only 400 hours, isn't it, and change? Standard work year is
2080,
2,000, and how much?
Well, 2080, if you
2080,
vacation. It's usually
Is that what they're
2,000.
using these days, 2080, okay. I'm used to the old days, 2020.
well, it's 2080 is a one FTE. So,
Anyhow, there's a bunch of time still.
I mean, that's the other thing, you know, there's times he hasn't been able to be in on our meetings because he has a court case. Or there was that one time where he was able to come on and then,
Right off.
yeah, I mean, that's hard, you know, because obviously he can't control the
That
court
was-
dates.
The cable workshop, actually.
That's right,
Yeah,
that
and
was a
so I
critical
mean,
time.
that's, what if there's a meeting, you know, an executive session that we need him, but it's,
You know, that could be true of any lawyer.
he's got a court case, I mean,
They're in court
yeah.
sometime or another.
Exactly.
Well, maybe we can, schedule our meetings more in the evenings when he probably wouldn't be tied up in.
Yeah, I mean, he used to have a specific days he was in court. I can ask him if he has a set schedule, because then we could work around it.
right,
And actually, that was, getting your point, that was a workshop or
It was,
or an out
Special
cycle.
meeting or-
It was
Yeah.
afternoon, and it was critical,
yeah,
it was a critical time, so, in other words, we can determine that.
But it was during the workday, wasn't it?
Exactly.
yeah, it was in the afternoon, I think.
I remember that, yeah.
I don't know how a district attorney's office works, but there are probably just nuisance cases that might be shoved off to him as assistant. I don't know how that works. You probably do.
He said he was doing like a murder trial, like
On your trial?
a few weeks back, a few months back, yeah.
I wonder, do they have a public defender's office over there? I wonder how that's
Sure.
handled.
Yeah, I'm sure
Sure.
they do.
Well, I think it's great. One thing too, that the old boy from Pitkin brought up is they want to see him a few times a year, instead of just always Zooming. So should we put in there also that physically come here?
There is somewhere.
Is there?
Yeah,
Let's see that.
Yeah.
3 times a year.
Okay, and he gets a,
Exhibit A,
Oh, I see.
first bullet. Toward the end, 3 times a year per request of the BOT, an in-person meeting is requested at the rate.
Okay. And just pay the travel.
We reimburse him for travel
There
and
you go, okay.
expenses, okay.
Thank you, Mark.
So, yeah,
I did read that.
as far as if you get into the super embroglio, I guess we can't make decisions here, right? But
No.
are we tossing around the idea if his 84 hours a year on the average, if he brings it up, anything over 100, we renegotiate or something?
I think we leave that line because, he doesn't state anything here
Right,
about hours.
right.
He's a part-time employee who's our attorney. And if we have to head to the courtroom or something like that, it's gonna go way beyond the 84 hours or something. I guess we'll talk then, but I don't believe that, if you're in court, attorney, charges a lot more. Or prepping for court, they charge a lot more. So there's nothing in here that I can read about that.
Yes.
So, we'll have to address that when the time comes. I don't wanna try to craft something that, addresses that issue when we don't know what that might include, what it might entail, how we're gonna pay for it. He can quit within, give us 30 days notice, as we can get rid of him with 30 days notice, so either way, if he doesn't want it, we say, hey, we're not gonna pay you for that, he'll say, oh, I'm resigning then, I'll give you 30 days notice. And, because, their fees for court go way up, and for prep and exhibits and all that crap. So, I think we just leave it lie. He crafted this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he knows his obligations in business far better than we.
So, so I would suggest that, because we can't make decisions, of course, but you comfortable with, drafting what we've discussed, put it into our request when we have executive session to meet with him and come up with our contract.
So when are we gonna have the next board meeting?
So it can be at the next board meeting, or you can do a special meeting.
Special executive meeting.
It'd be a special meeting, you go into the special meeting,
That's
and
right.
then it's kind of silly, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So when is the next board meeting?
It's
March.
March
Second or something.
18th.
Oh, gosh. Might not be here. It's my birthday.
You don't want to be here at a board meeting on your birthday?
Not bringing.
We'll let you wear a hat
Oh, wow.
with a.
Well, my brother might be coming out from North Carolina. If he's here, I won't be in
Oh,
a
if he's coming
position.
from North Carolina, it'll snow 2 feet before.
That's right, exactly.
Hey, Aaron, when you do the thing about the 24 hours, I would add in a business day,
Okay.
Yeah, 24 hours for one business day. Because that gives you a little bit of leeway, like you said, over the weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Does that,
So we're not changing much. Sounds like.
not really, just
Not
adding,
really.
just adding a few.
Yeah.
That
So you
way
want,
You'll have something to work with.
so put in the one business day and then some type of clause for a backup? Or just, you don't want me to put that in yet and you guys talk about it?
I would say, yeah, we
I
want
think
it.
we need to put that in here,
Okay.
and, for when he's on leave, to the military or personal vacation.
Whatever, just say it's not available.
Just
It's not
unavailable.
Whenever he's unavailable.
Okay.
And then who, it goes through the staff first, and then to the
Say
mayor,
that.
if necessary, for contact.
Yes. First point of contact is the clerk administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll change that title to administrator clerk. Okay.
You want to change my title? Is that what you said?
Just reverse it to administrative clerk. Anyway, so, okay, gentlemen. Anything else, come before we do the group?
What do we need to re-
What did you want me to post the salary, the 14 grand?
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta do about a month.
I was a little bit different, or are we gonna have to rewrite Aaron's job description?
I've never read it.
Because we've been giving her so many extra tasks.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting coming up on the,
Wednesday, the 12th at 1.
we'll be talking about salaries
Oh,
and we'll be talking about, we need to look at the budget again because Caleb put a lot of capital expenditures in there that I think are no longer appropriate. One other thing I want to bring up, so we need to look at that. Mike Langston called me last week and, he's gonna do the paving. Neil did get 3 bids. I just told him that we're gonna do it. I didn't bring it to the board, but there is a contract that Neil wrote up and, or you wrote up or somebody wrote up. I signed it.
Neil did it.
And so he could notify, when he's gonna need the material. That'll be on the board meeting. So I did that sort of sub rosa. Didn't have authority for you guys to do it. You agreed to do the paving. So we're staying within the chip seal budget. But instead of chip seal, it's gonna be paving.
Yeah,
Now,
we approved that the last meeting.
Yeah.
So you didn't do anything out of authority.
excuse me?
You didn't exceed out of authority at all.
Okay, thank you.
Good mayor. Good mayor.
Anyway, don't tell Jordan.
That's
By the way, he had a baby. It's in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His wife did, I guess. Anyway, let me think here. Oh, so then Mike called me back and said, what if I kept those prices for 5 years?
Wow.
And I said, well, that sounds great, but we will absolutely have to put that out for bid. He understood that. This year's done, so it'd be for 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30.
Interesting.
This year's done, Paul?
This
We have
year's.
a- Oh,
the
you signed the
yeah.
contract, okay.
And so, Neil's gonna have to do something in terms of speccing this out. And what we're gonna do over each year for 5 years, and of course it might change. We could say 1 mile of both lanes of surface road, something like that. So that's 5 miles, so you get 1 mile a year, and over 10 years, you'd have the whole town done. And we've done every street now over 5 years, at least once.
Chip seal.
Chip sealed it.
But you're talking about paving now.
Paving, yeah. And, like on Second Street, I think it's Second Street, maybe it's Third Street. I mean, you get a lot of hairline cracks in this chip seal. And then water gets in there, freezes and starts to crack up and everything. So I think Neil's right. We went down there and looked at it well, the Episcopals want to do something down there. And, I went down and looked at it, what they want. Is unreasonable. And, I don't know if it's gonna come up in the board meeting, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. So, they had a ramp that goes into, up onto their property from the street, from Third Street, up on their property. And, then they could get a wheelchair up and goes in a side door, which isn't even handicap, approved. It's not wide enough. What they could do is, there's 2 handicap ramps, one off of Rosita, one off of Third, right at the corner. They can go up that easily, and then they can come to the front door, and they would have to have a handicap step with it to get up there. And that wouldn't be too high, but they'd probably pay $1,000 for it. And, they're gonna pay more for that than sharing the cost of a sidewalk. And, then they go right into double doors. And, then they're in the building. So I haven't been in that church for years, so I don't know if any of you guys have. I was at a funeral, I think. And, so I heard it's divided up now or so. I just haven't heard of it. So, you might hear from some of them, maybe you already have. But Neil's gonna handle it with them. It's not a board issue at this juncture, I don't think. So, we're just gonna deny that.
He talked with her yesterday.
Pardon
Neil talked with that woman yesterday
me? Okay.
and, she's not requesting to be on the agenda anymore. We're just gonna fix the sidewalk.
One that didn't show up last time.
I mean, this is the most sensible, cost-effective, fastest solution. They asked us to take that ramp out because it was interfering with drainage, or it was interfering with drainage. And interestingly enough, Third Street, it goes along like this, then
Yeah.
heading north, it drops down. And it, to a drain. And then from Rosita, so here's the drain, here's that thing drops off, then it comes down from here to a drain. And they were putting Round Mountains put a huge culvert in there. I guess that's our culvert
That's our culvert.
that needed to be replaced.
No, the water line to the house across the street to the west failed, and I didn't know this, but their water meter was in their cellar, or basement, whatever. And Round Mountain had to replace it all the way from the street to there.
That's a bunch of the old meters
That's the old ones, yeah.
that we're just replacing as they pop up,
Yeah.
you know,
But-
get them. Yeah.
But they there's a new culvert in there.
There,
I know
well,
Mike
there's
did
a
that.
culvert in there. I think they had to replace part
Yeah,
of it.
I knew that's what they were doing. I thought that's what they were doing, rather than water.
They also
All
found
about
they found a street water drain pipe under that road was collapsed right where they dug up. That's why if you drive down the street now, you'll see they had to take a piece of pavement out that's probably
Yeah.
6
Saw
or
that,
7
yeah.
foot
Yeah.
apart. And
Yeah, so
that was kind of a big deal, that one.
Yeah.
that's Third Street, so we're gonna certainly do Third Street this year from Maine to Rosita. I don't know if we're gonna continue on to Herman, or Neil will know that.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that when I walked by that, because talking to our guys, it's a big opening, you know, they have to fill it full of good. but-
It's filled now.
How long will that
They've
last?
been compacting dirt
Yeah.
last couple of days.
So they may want to talk to Neil.
I'll make sure Neil is at the workshop on 2 Wednesdays from now.
And we will be scheduling an interview with the applicant we have
Oh,
for the town operations manager.
Yeah, I
Coordinator.
was waiting to get our workshop scheduled and then talk to you and Mark as far as your scheduling, and then I'll call that guy.
Just have one so far, still?
Now, the way we handled Erin's interview, she reminded me, was that George and I interviewed her
And Kathy.
and Kathy. And we interviewed the other woman too. And, and the board wasn't involved. And that was fine with you guys. I don't like the idea of a person being shot questions from 7 different chairs. That's kind of unfair. We could do it that way again, where Mark and I would interview candidates, or we could interview the candidates and you could be in attendance, but not say anything, just take notes and say yay or nay. I kind of prefer that way simply because, that way, you can, you may want to do it, you can say NFW, you know what I'm saying? Well, 3 of you or 4 of you could, 5 of you. So what is your wish? What are your wishes on that? That when you interview these candidates, I'm sorry.
Like, it can't be more than 2 though.
That's a special
Oh,
meeting.
this special
Right.
meeting, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'd be intimidating. I understand the fairness of everybody else, knowing what the deal is, but interviewed by 7 people at once, golly gee.
No, that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Could, could anybody, sitting there, not as,
Right.
not an interviewer, as a trustee?
right, I
Could
mean,
be a citizen, sit over there and be a citizen.
Now,
Well, I think-
by the way, what we've done in the past, and I haven't told you this, is that Kathy Snow's daughter has kind of done a due diligence on these
Yeah.
people.
like a phone screen.
Yeah, and we probably should do that on this candidate before we interview.
I'll talk to Heather.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
All right.
You know, when I used to hire for, I'm sorry,
Don't we also, do a background check also?
Yes.
Yes,
A
okay.
drug test.
We do that, we check their credit and everything.
Yeah.
I learned that from our credit manager in the hospital I worked at. He said, why aren't you checking their credit? They're not paying their bills, do we want this person working for us? You know,
Yeah, because if they're in financial, that's the number one thing that when the FBI does a security check for a security clearance for the government, is if you've got too many debts and you're not keeping up with them.
Yeah.
That's a big flag.
Yeah.
You could lie or you could admit that you did dope and all this other stuff, but if you've had a bankruptcy and you're just kind of hiding it under the table, you're not gonna get a clearance.
When I hired for the test center, sometimes it was usually two of us. And if we thought it was necessary, we would ask the interviewer to be interviewed by some of the staff if we thought there was some pertinent, like, I'm just suggesting this. Do we really know if this guy understands, you know, how to maintain a park or something?
Right.
Maybe we'd say, if we thought it was the case, if it is you and I, maybe he interviews with Neil or something.
I mean,
Well,
I think
that's
myself
probably-
and Neil should be in there.
Yeah, I think Aaron and Neil should be in
Okay.
because he's gonna report to Aaron. And Neil is, you know, I think actually Neil could do the job, but we'd have to modify the job description.
I don't know if he wants
He
it, but
doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to?
I think his opinions are coming to the surface more now, though, aren't they? I think he's
Well,
more.
I
was,
I
you
think
know-
he's, looking at retirement,
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, he's 63.
He wants to go back to the family ranch.
Yeah.
So he said, wherever that is.
Uh,
I don't know where it is.
We're getting way off subject on what this meeting was about.
We can adjourn and then,
So I just want to bring it up.
No, we can just bullshit.
Yeah, I wonder in a workshop, are we restrained by all the sunshine law stuff?